Our next guests are New York Times bestselling authors of the new book, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew.
Talk about a timely issue here. Their book connects the dots between the root of anti-Semitism, decades-long stereotypes, and the undercurrent of fear in today's Jewish community. Please welcome Emmanuel Acho and Noa Tishby, everybody.
Good to see you all.
Yes, good to see you guys, and congratulations on the book. But you can't help but think about what's going on overseas and here in this country. So you actually were having this conversation with Noa before all of this came about.
Started this book 2 years ago. I identified the fact that we often fight in silos. Black people fight for black people, Jewish people fight for Jewish people, women fight for women. But what would happen if we collectively waged war against hate, against marginalization, against oppression? How much more powerful would we be collectively as a people group, collectively as a society, if rather than just fighting for ourselves, we fought together? And so I reached out to Noa a little over 2 years ago. Thankfully, she said yes.
But a lot of that comes with understanding the issues, and I feel like we really just don't understand this conflict that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years.
It's nuanced. I mean, one, that's why we wrote the book, and two, that's why I'm so grateful for Noa, because to try to empathize with someone is impossible if you're not educated on that person. How can I be heartbroken for something that I don't even know? And Noa so brilliantly and so eloquently took incredibly complex topics and broke them down into digestible versions in this book. So many people that are seeing the riots in college campuses, the tension going on in the world, but not realizing it's going on in your world. So educate yourself on it so you can speak on it. I believe that, like, it's unfortunate to be ignorant, but it's morally irresponsible to stay ignorant. And I think Noa and I beautifully try to unveil ignorance in writing of the book.
And it's very unique for somebody who's not from the Jewish community at the time to notice the rise in anti-Semitism, because a lot of people didn't. Obviously, the Jewish community have, and we knew it was brewing underneath the surface. So everything that's happening right now is not entirely surprising, but Emmanuel was one of those people who was an ally, a true ally of the Jewish community, and I couldn't have said yes faster.
And no, let's talk about that, because
very timely.
Anti-Semitism isn't new. It is a continuing problem. What are you hoping people walk away with when they read this book?
It's a great question. So first of all, we have to understand that anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hate and discrimination that is still being practiced today. So it's been around for as long as Jews have been around, for thousands and thousands of years. So first of all, when I talk about my work, I always say jokingly that I don't expect anti-Semitism to stop or to go away, because it never has. But what I would like to do is to make it a little less fashionable again, if possible, because it became acceptable again. So what we hope people are getting from this book is, first of all, to learn everything you need to know about the current cultural moment, which is so important. There's so many things that are happening right now that people are not really versed in. So this is a great opportunity to learn about that and be entertained while doing that. And honestly, to be able to have these uncomfortable conversations is something that our society really needs.
So what's the first step to starting this conversation? Do we do it in the barbershop? Is it a one-on-one when we have dinner?
I believe that if your life does not look as diverse as you want it, be intentional about making it more diverse. So the first step in having a conversation, sit down with somebody who doesn't look like you. Sit down with somebody who doesn't believe what you believe in. Sit down with somebody who may not have the same religious affinity or religious beliefs. Often we sit in silos, but if we were to actually sit down with somebody who looks and thinks and feels differently than we do, then we can start to feel how they feel, and it helps us navigate this world a little bit better, because everybody has a different experience, and your life experience, it shapes your future experience. So to me, the very first step is sitting down with somebody that doesn't look like you and having a truly meaningful conversation where you're slow to speak and you're quick to listen.
That's it, because listening, of course, protest comes about, from one side, not listening to the other.
100%.
And you see all the conflict in the world right now. I mean, both sides feel so incredibly passionate about what they believe in when it comes to these issues. How do you encourage people? How do you comfort people? How do you have that conversation with someone when it's going to be difficult?
This is a great question as well. So I always say, and we talked about that in the book as well, the only way out is through. So in order to get to the other side of something, you have to go through the fire. And in order to grow, it's not called growing pleasures, it's called growing pains for a reason. And I think that today in our society, so many people are very invested in safe spaces and trigger warnings and all that, and it's all fun and fine and good, and I respect that. But I believe less in safe spaces and more in real spaces, and I really think that in order to learn about each other, you have to have these conversations, and you have to come from a place, like Emmanuel did, from a place of love and empathy and honesty and a willingness to have these conversations we were butting heads in the book. It wasn't always easy or lovey-dovey. Like, we actually went there. We put everything on the table. And I think a lot of the time people feel like they don't want to go there. And we really went there.
Because you don't want to isolate people either, or feel isolated.
Because people are quick to be offended. I think that's more. So people are afraid to offend somebody, and they're afraid to say the wrong thing. And when you're friends with somebody, when we're sitting together, I said to Emmanuel, there's nothing wrong you can say. You can ask me anything. So we can talk about stereotypes, and we can talk about Zionism. We can talk about Jesus. We can talk about anything. You're not going to offend me, and I'm not going to offend you. And as a result, we learned so much about each other, and we hope people will learn about all of this too through the book.
I want to have coffee with you guys so bad. Whole crew right here. Thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
To Emmanuel and
Thank
Noa
you
for
so
being
much.
with us. Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew is available everywhere books are sold.
Got some good nuggets out of that conversation.